In the second term of Trump, Trump is going to abandon the war in Ukraine. Russia is going to take the whole of Ukraine. Trump is going to turn his attention to NATO, tariffing NATO economically, which is going to make NATO resent America under a second term of Trump. So that's my prediction. Trump has said he's going to solve the war in Ukraine his first day in the White House. How he's going to solve it, he's going to pool military aid to go to Zelensky. He's going to stop the military flow to Zelensky. Putin knows that. Putin is then going to take the whole of Ukraine. And then Trump bragging about the economy. He's going to focus his attention, his tariff wars back on Europe, which is going to make, because Europe, NATO might not stop the flow after Trump to Ukraine. NATO is going to look at it like Trump is undermining the whole 4 years of the alliance sending aid to Zelensky. They're going to look at Trump like he threw everything underneath the bus and he caused the Ukraine to unravel. And he threw all the hard work of NATO supplying Zelensky with military advancements. NATO leaders are going to look at Trump like, because of Trump, we lost Ukraine. That's how they're going to look at it. And then, like right now, Putin is emboldened to take the whole of Ukraine along with North Korea soldiers and Putin. Now they're going to take the whole of Ukraine. They know that it's a matter of 2 months before Trump takes office, and they know that time is on their side. As far as Putin knows that Trump initiative is to pool military aid from Ukraine, American military aid. So yeah, Putin is going to take the whole of Ukraine now, and then when Trump focuses on his economy, tariff wars, because that's all he knows how to do is say tariff. He thinks that that's a magic wand to become rich. And in reality, that's what caused inflation to go up under his first term. His global tariff wars is what caused inflation to boom under his first term. And then asking the Federal Reserve to print negative interest, to flood the market with negative interest money. So at the end of the day, Trump is the one that spawned off inflation that Biden inherited under the Biden term. So it was because Trump's global tariff wars in Europe and Asia and Canada and Mexico and Japan, all his tariff wars, all Trump's tariff wars is what caused the price of imports to go up, commodity goods to go up. And then also the asking the Federal Reserve to print negative interest money, all of that caused hyperinflation in America. But the dim-witted supporters of Trump doesn't realize that the inflation came from Trump, because Trump was throwing a lot of money into the market as far as asking the Federal Reserve to print money with negative interest. And then the corona epidemic just exacerbated the markets, but all that was done under the Trump administration economically. And Biden, his whole term was to bring down the inflation safely without us suffering a depression. But Trump likes to take credit for the best economy in American history under his term, which is a lie. It's misleading. So now Trump on the second term is going to focus on his global tariff wars again, because he doesn't know anything else to say in economics. He doesn't have no sense of economics. He just thinks that tariff is a magic wand to wave around, and all of a sudden that's going to make us rich. In reality, he looks like a leprechaun troll, trolling every sovereign nation around the world for tribute, as form of trolling their coffers, of sovereign coffers with tariffs, extorting nations for tariffs. All it is you're basically a troll leprechaun trolling around nations' sovereign coffers, global nations' sovereign coffers, asking them for tariff, extorting money out of their coffers in the form of tariffs. There's nothing smart about it. It's asinine. And so now on the second term, Trump is going to focus after Ukraine is abandoned. The NATO leaders will resent Trump. The European Union will resent Trump. They will despise him for it. And now after Ukraine is forsaken, at the end of the day, Trump is going to start to extort economically Europe again with tariffs. So, but that doesn't mean if Trump abandons Ukraine that NATO will. So there's still a chance that there's a confrontation between Russia and NATO and that World War III can break out. So if Trump is caught in his administration in the midst of World War III, and Trump is focusing on rounding up 21 million Latino migrants, then that can cause, in the midst of World War III, that can cause unrest in the Americas between South and North in the midst of a World War III if Trump is obsessing over Latinos in the Americas. So at the end of the day, there's a possibility of World War III erupting under the Trump watch. Because like I said, NATO might still be supplying Zelensky weapons. NATO might still be on a path to confronting Russia. And that can erupt in World War III, regardless of what Trump does with Putin. As far as his peace plan, the first day in the White House, how he plans to solve the conflict. That doesn't mean NATO will follow Trump's steps and Trump lead. So if for whatever reason Russia breaks out in war with NATO, and Trump is the, for me, Trump will be the wrong man in the White House in the midst of World War III. He will be the wrong leader in the White House in the midst of World War III. So at the end of the day, if Netanyahu is still involved in the regional war, and North Korea and Russia are still in Ukraine, and if World War III happens to erupt and break out, and Trump, all he could do is obsess about migrants, then Trump might start an agitational conflict in the Americas and be bogged down with a possible war of the Americas as far as South America and North America are concerned. That's because if Latinos starts to get mistreated and abused under the Trump administration, the way he's proven to denigrate Latinos, and if Trump obsesses over Latinos in the midst of World War III, then that can start a regional conflict between South America and North America. And if Netanyahu is still now Trump in office would embolden Netanyahu, because Trump is a war hawk, war hawk when it comes to Netanyahu, because of the proximity of Jared, Trump's brother-in-law, and Netanyahu. So Trump will be a hardliner against Iran. And so this would embolden Netanyahu to attack Iran or to start a regional war in the Middle East. But like I said, the next 4 years, if for whatever reason World War III breaks out in Europe, America will look at Trump as an impediment. As far as NATO, we'll look at Trump as an impediment, as an American impediment, the wrong leader. So at the end of the day, these are the predictions that I make. The only thing I stand for, that I believe in, that we shouldn't agitate the conflict in Europe to the point that it breaks out in World War III. We shouldn't give the permission to Zelensky to launch long-range missiles and attack deep into Russia with our missiles. But I think Trump is just gonna abandon Zelensky, and Putin knows that, and he's gonna take the whole of Ukraine. Putin is gonna take the whole of Ukraine, and NATO, like I said, will resent the Trump administration. And if Trump then focuses on tariffing the European Union, it would look like, I think it will be the straw that breaks the camel's back as far as the European Union and NATO under a Trump administration. It will make them enemies of themselves. Trump faces NATO, and NATO will look at Trump like their self destruction under the American leadership. So, as far as NATO and the European Union as an organization. So let's say Trump stops sending weapons to Zelensky, and Putin tries to take the whole of Ukraine, and NATO is bogged down sending Zelensky weapons because America backed out of supporting Zelensky. Now, China will be emboldened because if Trump, for his second term, start to obsess over tariffing China and making a deal out of antagonizing China with tariffs, now China can start to invade Taiwan, and now NATO will start to look at Trump like Trump is a enemy of the Union, because at that point Trump is not going to have respect by NATO or the leaders of Europe if he starts arguing with them over tariffs and he pulls out his obligation, the American obligation to support Zelensky. In other words, Trump can probably exacerbate the situation with China and cause China to increase their aid to Putin for Putin to take the whole of Ukraine. And it might be in Xi's favor if there's a wedge between America and NATO, leadership wedge between America and NATO, or America and also the European Union, economically or militarily wise with NATO. So it might embolden Xi to start making plans to invade Taiwan, or if not invade Taiwan, increase the chances of Putin taking the whole of Ukraine. Because it might be in Xi's interest to sit back and watch America self-implode when it comes to their alliance with Western Europe. When it comes to America's alliance with Western Europe, as far as the European unions economically arguing with Trump over tariffs, and then NATO seeing America as the reason for Ukraine losing the war of defending their sovereign territories. So there's a real wedge under the Trump second term with Western Europe and America, and like I said, there's still a real chance that NATO might go to war with Russia, and then my opinion of how Trump will act in the midst of World War III. Trump is a hothead. I will be afraid of Trump with the nuclear button. He's a hothead, and he might do more harm than good when it comes to dealing with in the midst of World War III. I'm not going to predict that it will be a abandonment between NATO and America. But if World War III doesn't break out, there's going to be a bad taste in Europe's mouth as far as Trump or Trumpian politics goes. If, let's say, World War III doesn't break out, still NATO will look at Trump like a betrayer, and the European Union of NATO of the European Western Europe will look at Trump like an extortioner, a tariff extortioner. on their sovereign coffers. So the Trump movement might alienate the Western alliance. How far that will go, I'm not sure how to predict it, how far it will go. But definitely now Russia, North Korea are boldened to take the whole of Ukraine. Lazinski, his time is ticking on him. He will end up losing the war. I'm pretty sure on that. Under Trump, Russia will take the whole of Ukraine. China would increase their supplies to Putin. Now they're freed up. China is freed up because they know how Trump is towards Russia. So now Xi is freed up to send weapons to Putin. And eventually Putin will take the whole of Ukraine. And NATO will feel like Trump betrayed them. So yeah. And at home, Trump is going to be obsessed about denigrating black civil rights movements. Of if there's any eruption of black civil rights movements in America under Trump, Trump is going to oppress any type of rebellion against his leadership, whether it be black or Latinos. Trump might be obsessing too much over rounding up migrants that within itself it could start a conflict of the Americas. So if World War III breaks out and Trump is obsessing over Latin America, there's a good potential that there might be a civil war of the Americas between South and North, Latinos and North Americans under the Trump banner. If he starts alienating Latinos throughout the country, is enough to start conflicts within the Americas. So all I know is Trump is a hothead. And he's going to rile up a lot of things and ruffle a lot of people the wrong way, ruffle their feathers the wrong way. And at the end of the day, I think Putin and Kim Il-sung are celebrating, and Lazinski is living on borrowed time. I was for defending Ukraine, sovereign territory, but not attacking into Russia with long-range American missiles. I was against that. But I don't know if Putin has a lot of compromise on Trump, but for some reason, Trump is putty in the hands of Putin. Trump is putty. So it makes me think that Putin does have compromise, embarrassing compromise, and he blackmails Trump to do whatever Putin desires. I do believe there's a reason why Trump is always kowtowing to Putin. So now on the BRICS, because Trump is going to obsess again with tariffing China, making a spectacle out of tariffing China. So that might push Xi towards being totally insulted with American foreign policy. And if Trump starts a tariff war with China again, which you got to understand, anyway, it might force Xi to accelerate aid to Putin. So I believe 100% Putin might conquer the whole of Ukraine. But now, since North Korea is already in Ukraine fighting, I'm not sure how to call it in the European NATO Western force versus North Korea and Putin in Ukraine. But hopefully it doesn't break out in World War III, because if it does, Trump is the wrong temperament for World War III. He will be overstepping the bounds and causing atrocities throughout the world. Trump is a tyrant, and he would be committing atrocities, using the Pentagon in the midst of World War III to commit atrocities. And he's the wrong temperament in the White House in the midst of, if World War III breaks out, Trump will be known for committing atrocities on a grand scale globally. But so at the end of the day, there's a real wedge between Western Europe, meaning the European Union and NATO, and Trump. And Trump is just going to exacerbate the situation with tariff wars, while Europe is trying to pick up the pieces of Ukraine being forsaken. Europe is going to look at Trump is just going to be challenging NATO, challenging the European Union, and that might be an advantageous positioning for BRICS to undermine the dollar, because under Trump, the European Union would stop supporting the world reserve status of American currency. So if Europe sees that America is ungrateful economically, the Eurozone will stop supporting America currency as the world reserve currency. So that would embolden BRICS to fast track their BRIC organization members to decouple from the American currency. So America might face a hard economic system under Trump. Because I always believe that the first Trump administration in 2016 to 2020, Trump is what caused the hyperinflation. Trump was in tariff wars with France, Germany, Canada, Mexico, South Korea, Japan, China. Trump is what caused the imports of commodities coming into America to start going high in skyrocket prices. He, with his tariff wars, started the inflationary prices of imports coming into this country, because he was tariffing Canada, Mexico, France, Germany, Japan, China. So it was Trump. But the dim-witted American citizens, they don't realize what caused the hyperinflation and who caused it. It wasn't Biden. Biden inherited it, but it was Trump that caused it with his tariff wars, and then asking the Federal Reserve to print negative interest money, which threw more money in the markets, chasing less commodity goods with high prices of imports. It was Trump that caused hyperinflation. And in the second term, by him throwing Zelensky and Ukraine underneath the bus, and then going against NATO economically, going against Europe, the European Union economically, it's just the Eurozone is gonna start to lessen their reserves in American dollars. They're gonna stop supporting America's currency as the hegemony currency of the world. The European Union is under a second Trump term, and the BRIC members might see that as a beginning to decouple the world from the petrodollar. The BRIC members might use that as leverage to weaken and to phase out America's greenback as a hegemony currency of the world. So everybody likes to congratulate Trump economically. The economy in America was the greatest economy. Is bullshit. Under the Trump term, he caused the fiasco of hyperinflation of commodity goods that were imported into America with his tariff wars. That's why prices started going up. And then he wanted the Federal Reserve, Chairman Powell, he wanted him to print negative interest money. That was throwing a lot of money out on commodity goods that already were facing high pricing of imports because of his tariff with Europe, Canada, Mexico, and Asia. So it was Trump that spawned off hyperinflation of products on the shelves of American stores. It was Trump that caused the hyperinflations. And people in America are so dim-witted, they don't call him out for it. And his supporters, they don't know. They're low IQ. They don't comprehend economics. So at the end of the day, a second Trump term is just going to make America's economy falter. It's going to start faltering again under a second Trump term. Imagine how Europe will take to Trump after Trump abandons NATO obligations with Ukraine. NATO or European sovereign leaders of the European Union under NATO, they will start to look at Trump as an impediment. And then economically, as a European Union, when Trump starts inflicting tariff wars on Europe again, they're just going to start to to divest themselves of American reserve currency, and which will give BRICS the advantageous position to push the American greenback off the precipice of no return and decouple the world from the petrol dollar or the world reserve hegemony American currency dollar as being the world reserve status. So at the end of the day, I think now China and Putin sees an opportunity to take full advantage of a second Trump term. And Trump is just going to weaken NATO and the European Union under his term. And I predict with his tariff wars that prices are going to start to rise again. See, Biden was able to he had a soft landing to bring down the hyperinflation that Biden inherited from the first Trump term. But now Trump, picking up where he left off with tariff wars, prices are going to start to go sky high again. And this time around, the Eurozone is going to be an enemy of America's Trump administration. The leaders of Europe and the European Union are going to start to divest themselves from supporting the greenback. And so it's going to make this time around prices be worse than the first Trump term. This time around, the second term, is going to be much worse. So I don't know why people congratulate Trump's economic sense during his first term in office, because it was the reason why everything went sky high.